guys? Capital P Sports here, Prince Sports. Now, I want to talk to you guys, bring you back to an era, the 1990s, East Coast versus West Coast. All right, one of the guys that led the charge for the West Coast was none other than Tupac. Now, Tupac dissed a lot of New York rappers. One of the rappers he dissed was Nas. Okay, now when he dissed Nas, he flew back to New York and he ran into a guy named Eric B. Tupac has some connections in Queens, and he ran into a guy named Eric B. who happens to be from Queens. You remember Eric B. and Rakim, okay? He was the producer, the guy that made the beats for Rakim. He told Tupac, you got to fix that situation with Nas, because that's a situation you don't want. You don't want trouble with a guy like Nas. And he told Tupac this: starting trouble with a guy that didn't want trouble with you, especially a guy like Nas that comes from a certain type of environment, you don't want that type of smoke. Because if you keep pushing him, that dog is going to bite you. And that what led to Nas meeting Tupac in New York, okay? Keep in mind, I want you guys to understand this. Keep in mind, out of all the rappers from New York, a lot of them were afraid to go at Tupac. But you know what group of rappers weren't afraid to go after Tupac? Queensbridge wasn't afraid. Drop a dime on him. LA. That's the only neighborhood in New York City. Keep that in mind. The only neighborhood in New York City that was tough enough, brave enough to go after the whole death row. All right? They didn't care. You know why? Because it's the biggest hood in America. Let me tell you something about Queensbridge. It's not a normal neighborhood, okay? It's not like a normal hood where you got 2 or 3 blocks, blah, blah, blah. This is 96 buildings, okay? I repeat, it's 96 buildings big. And each building is like his own hood, okay? It's, we call it the maze because there's so much stuff going on. It's like being trapped into a movie. But one thing you don't want is problems with people from Queensbridge. At all, okay? It's not the neighborhood to play games with. Nas said it best. Queensbridge don't make no herbs, all right? Now, out of all those people, when Death Row was in New York, in Central Park, out of all places, no other boroughs, no other cities, no other neighborhoods went to see Pac other than Queensbridge, okay? Like 900 cats from the bridge went there to meet up with Tupac, okay? And Snoop Dogg would tell you most that they all had weapons on them. And Snoop was like, I thank Nas each and every day because if he wanted to, all he had to do was give the word and we wouldn't make it out of New York. Okay, that's how deep Queensbridge was, okay? Still is. So, they hashed things out and Tupac went back to Eric B and said, you know what? Nas a cool dude, you know? I'm gonna erase all the stuff that I said about him and I'm gonna invite him to LA so he can come and do some songs with me. And that's how it came about, all right? Unfortunately, he met his demise in Las Vegas and he passed away. But those guys were going to come together and do music together, okay? So keep that in mind, all right? And for Tupac's benefit, he lucky that he met up with Nas instead of Mobb Deep, okay? Because Mobb Deep was the guys that, those dudes that they walk around with, those dudes that they associate themselves with, would not want to just talk, okay? Those not the guys that like to talk about situations. They all about action. Mobb Deep was always about action. And Queensbridge was always about action too. It's always about fighting people. You know, so let me tell you this much. You guys don't understand the magnitude of how much power a guy like Nas had in Queens, or just in New York in general, okay? No other bros came to New York's defense. Only Queens did. That just showed you the state of mind and how crazy guys were back then, especially from that neighborhood. I could vouch for it because I could tell you I've been around several neighborhoods. I've been to Watts, I've been to Compton, been to Long Beach, I've been to Philly, and none of those neighborhoods equal up to the craziness that you could find in Queensbridge. All right? There was just something about Queensbridge that just brings out the dog in you. I can't explain it, but I don't know. They say it was built on top of graveyards, okay? That's what made the, like it's haunted or something like that. But there you go. That's how that story came about. I noticed a lot of guys tend to try to disrespect Nas or act like Nas wasn't this type of dude. Man, let me tell you something about Nas. Nas wasn't a quote-unquote gangster type of dude, but he was a very smart and intelligent guy. And the people that he associated himself with was not meant to be taken for as a joke, okay? That's just a fact, all right? I'm gonna leave it at that. And that is the real reason why you shouldn't be messing with a dude like Nas, okay? On no levels, okay? I'm out. Peace.